Hi everyone, in this video I will explain the horror film called Bhoot Part 1, The Haunted Ship. Bhoot Part 1, The Haunted Ship is an Indian horror film released on 21 February 2020. The main characters of this horror film are Prithivi, who works as a shipping officer at the DG shipping office in Mumbai, his friend Riaz, a little girl Meera and her mother Vundana, and a professor named Joshi, who is a researcher on ghosts. The story of this horror film begins with Vundana filming her little daughter Meera inside a merchant ship. In February 2021, the little girl Meera is turning 3 years old. So her mother Vundana is celebrating Meera's birthday on a ship called Seabird because her husband is the captain of the merchant ship. All the crew of the merchant ship are dancing and enjoying themselves, but the little girl Meera is sitting silently on a chair. At that moment, the little girl Meera heard a snapping sound coming from inside the ship. She went inside the ship to check it. But she was pulled away by an invisible force and disappeared, leaving behind her doll. 11 years later, in June 2012, Prithivi is looking very sadly at a photo containing his wife. At that moment, Prithivi remembers how he and his friend Riaz steal his girlfriend and run away from her house. Then he got married to his girlfriend in court. They give birth to a baby girl and are shown raising her. Thus Prithivi family was once having a beautiful and happy life. From this scene, we know that Prithivi's wife and daughter are already dead, and now he is living a lonely and sorrowful life in his house. One night, Prithivi foils a human trafficking operation and saves many girls. Later, police came to the scene and arrested all the people involved in human trafficking. His friend Riaz also came there and warned him against such a dangerous rescue operation. Riaz keeps telling Prithivi to be careful and told his friend Prithivi that if he wants to go in such a dangerous operation, then at least inform him. From these scenes, we can understand that Prithivi always wanted to save people who were falling in danger, and his friend Riaz is always supportive and worried about him. After returning home, Prithivi was resting on a sofa. At that moment, his deceased daughter came out and talked to him. Thus, even after Prithivi's wife and daughter were all dead, he is still hallucinating and talking with his imagination, wife and daughter. So, there is a tragic backstory, and something terrible has happened to his family, and because of that, Prithivi is suffering from depression. That night, a mysterious large ship named Seabird washed up ashore Juhu Beach in Mumbai. The next day, Prithivi is hailed as a hero in his office for saving many girls from human trafficking. Soon enough, it is reported on the TV news channel that a large ship named Seabird has washed up ashore at Juhu Beach in Mumbai. The strange thing is that there is not a single crew inside that large ship. The head of the DG shipping office gave Prithivi and Riaz the task of investigating the strange ship. Later that night, a couple decides to play around by going inside the ship. There is no security around, so the couple gets in without any trouble. As usual, the couple decides to play hide and seek. The girl hid inside a locker while the guy came looking for her. This angers a female ghost on the ship, and the female ghost kills the couple. The next day, Prithivi and Riaz, along with other employees of the DG shipping office, came to the Seabird ship. While Riaz is busy talking with other employees on the deck, Prithivi walks alone inside the ship to investigate. While Prithivi is roaming inside the ship, he finds a doll in the passageway. The doll immediately starts singing a recorded song, which Prithivi silences by stepping on it. Then he checked one room after another and found the engine room door, which is locked. He tried to open the door of the engine room but failed. At that moment, the ghost came out and started haunting around Prithivi. But still, Prithivi is not aware of the ghost that is haunting the ship. Then he heard a strange footstep coming out of a room. When he opened the door, he found out that it was one of the bedroom used by the ship crew. Suddenly his torchlight fell under the bed. When he checks under the bed, he sees the same doll that was previously left at the passageway, laying under the bed. But the doll disappears, and a moment later it reappears on the other side of the bed. This really gave a lot of confusion to Prithivi, but he thought the doll moving from one place to another was just his imagination. After returning home, Prithivi looks at his wife and daughter photo and remembers about the tragic accident that killed his wife and daughter. Then he tried to close his eyes and sleep, but the doll from the ship started haunting in his house. So Prithivi is becoming more and more curious about the doll. The next day, he went to the ship again with his friend Riaz to check on the doll, but the doll is missing. Instead, he finds some logbook containing records of the ship and a videotape. They came out of the room and walked below the stairs. At that time, Prithivi heard some noise coming out from the other side of the room. So he walks there to check and finds a room that is in clean condition. He is very surprised to see a clean room inside the abandoned ship. So he takes some photos of the room using his phone. While taking the photo, a male ghost suddenly appeared for a moment and then disappeared. Then Prithivi came out to the deck to check if there was anyone, but suddenly the male ghost attacked him and disappeared. After returning home, Prithivi takes out his phone and shows the photo of the clean room inside the ship to his friend Riaz, but that clean room turns out to be a dirty and ugly room. This really shocked him again, and he wanted to know more about the story behind the ship. So Prithivi checks the videotape and finds out that the video is about Vundana recording the illegal activities and smuggling of gold and drugs inside the ship. The videotape also shows the ship captain beating Vundana. But still Prithivi has no idea who Vundana really is. After that, Prithivi is asked by Riaz's wife to see Professor Joshi, who is a researcher on ghosts. As soon as Prithivi enters the professor's office, a ghost detection machine delivers a loud beep and the professor immediately claims that there is an evil spirit around Prithivi. In the medical file record of Prithivi, Professor Joshi finds out that Prithivi is suffering from depression and he has been hallucinating about his dead wife and daughter. So, Professor Joshi told Prithivi to take some medicines, otherwise, he would be hallucinating about his dead wife and daughter. But Prithivi rejects it, saying he sometimes avoids taking medicine intentionally in order to see his dead wife and daughter. The next morning, the dead body of the girl previously killed by the female ghost inside the ship is found buried on Juhu beach near the ship. The news media blame the death of the girl on the beach is due to the failure of removing the seabird ship from the beach by the DG shipping office. So the head of the DG shipping office told Prithivi and Riaz to get rid of the large ship from the beach as soon as possible before more people turn the ship into an adventurous place. That night, Prithivi and Riaz meet with the owner of the seabird ship. The ship owner told them that the seabird ship is really haunted, but no one would believe it. He further said that there have been several disappearances and deaths on the ship. So no crew wanted to board the seabird ship. But in February 2001, Seabird's entire crew disappeared overnight, and the reason is not known. The next day, Prithivi and Riaz attempted to tow the seabird ship from the beach, but failed, and their salvage boat is damaged during the process. At that moment, Prithivi sees a worker fall from the salvage boat into the seawater. Immediately, he jumps into the sea to save the worker. While saving the worker under the seawater, Prithivi notices a hole in the lower regions of the seabird ship and sees a little girl staring back at him through that hole. The lifeguards pull Prithivi and the worker from the seawater. Prithivi is injured and he is admitted to a hospital. He asks, "How are those worker and the little girl doing?" Hearing that, Riaz got confused and told that there was no girl there. But Prithivi swears that other than the worker, there was a little girl in the water near the lower region of the ship. His friend Riaz told him that you are imagining things and hallucinating again. After returning from the hospital, Prithivi was resting in his room. In his dream, it is revealed that his wife and daughter were drowned due to improper safety equipment on a river rafting vacation. On that day, he urged his wife and daughter to go boating on the river. The life jacket is too big and loose for his daughter, but he fixed it. Then they all sit on a rafting boat, but a wave hits their boat and they all fall under the water. In that incident, Prithivi fails to save her daughter and she drowns in the river. While his wife hits her head on a rock under the water and dies. Then the ghost of his wife and daughter is seen standing in the room. His wife's ghost told him that it was his fault that killed her and their daughter, while his daughter's ghost told her father that she wanted to come back to him. So Prithivi felt guilty for failing to save his wife and daughter. This is why he always wanted to save people who were in danger. Then suddenly he wakes up and remembers the little girl he saw through a hole in the lower regions of seabird ship. Prithivi doesn't believe in ghosts, and he knew that the little girl he saw through the hole in the ship was real and not a hallucination. Immediately he thinks of going to the ship and saving the girl. He called his friend Riaz for help, but he did not pick up the call. So that night Prithivi goes all alone to the ship to investigate the ship and save the girl. After entering inside the ship, he continued to hear a snapping sound. He followed the snapping sound, and it seems the sound is coming from inside the engine room. He broke the door of the engine room using an axe. Then he entered and looked inside the engine room, but he saw no one there. He tried to go down near the engine area, but he was shocked to see the doll laying near the door. At that moment the snapping sound continued to hear louder, and the female ghost came out suddenly and attacked him. He falls down into the engine room and is unconscious for some time. Meanwhile, Riaz came to Prithivi's house and finds out that he was not there inside the house. Riaz knew his friend Prithivi had gone to the ship. So Riaz came to the ship to help his friend. After some time, Prithivi wakes up from unconscious, but he still continues to hear the snapping sound. He knows that the female ghost is around him, so he hides inside the engine area. There he found another video recording camera. He took the camera and tried to run out of the engine room. When he opens the exit door of the engine room, the dead body of the previous guy killed by the ghost, along with his girlfriend, falls down from above. He was shocked to see it, and then he ran out of the engine room. He tried to escape from the ship but failed because all the doors of the upper room deck were locked by the ghost. The female ghost came out and stood in front of Prithivi. Then the female ghost attacked Prithivi using the metal scrap, but fortunately Riaz came to the scene and blocked the metal scrap by opening the side door of the room. Riaz too is shocked after seeing the female ghost standing there. Then the scary female ghost tried to attack them. They run out of the upper deck and jump off the ship. This time they were able to escape from the ghost without any hurt. After returning home, Riaz did not speak a word and was still in shock. Prithivi took Riaz to his home. After that, Prithivi watches the video on the recording camera that he found in the engine room of the ship. In the video, he sees the little girl, Meera, celebrating her 3rd birthday. After watching the video, he takes a break and walks in the washroom to wash his face, but he sees the female ghost from the ship screaming inside the mirror. Then he continues watching the video and sees all of the crew members standing in a line and killing themselves by jumping off the ship. He finds out that the little girl Meera is not among them who are jumping off the ship. After knowing this, he came to believe that the female girl that attacked him was actually the little girl Meera. He does recognize the little girl Meera by the doll, who has been wandering inside the ship around Prithivi and spooking him. Immediately Prithivi and Riaz came to Professor Joshi's house and asked him to identify the female girl. Prithivi convinced them that the female girl is actually the little girl Meera, and she may still be alive inside the ship. His friend Riaz doesn't believe it because he is certain that the girl is a ghost and she doesn't look anything like a living person. Prithivi brought out the logbooks that he found from the ship. He explained that, in the logbooks it is mentioned, 8 years ago a young girl, approximately 7 or 8, was spotted on this ship. The girl they saw yesterday could be around 13 or 14 years old. The 3-year-old little girl Meera in the videotape, the 8-year-old girl mentioned in the logbooks, and the girl they saw on the ship yesterday are the same girl. After hearing that, Professor Joshi told them, if the little girl Meera is still alive, that means she has been possessed by an evil spirit for the last 11 years. Now they need to find out about this evil spirit who possessed the little girl Meera, otherwise, they won't be able to save the little girl. Riaz wants to stay away from all this because those incidents involving evil spirits or ghosts are not their job. But Prithivi persists, mostly because he was unable to save his little daughter from drowning in the river and felt guilty for that. So, this time he doesn't want to lose another little girl and wants to save her from the evil spirit. The next day, Prithivi finds out all the crew lists of the seabird ship. But when he calls one after another, it is told that all of them passed away a few years ago. After returning home, Prithivi continued watching the video from the camera recorder that he found from the engine room. In the video, he sees an unidentified man snapping his finger and cleaning the windows of the ship. The sound of the man snapping his finger is similar to the snapping sound made by the ghost in the ship. The man seems to be smiling at the camera while recording the video. Prithivi wonders who this unidentified man could be and grows suspicious of this man amongst the crew. He also comes to believe that the little girl Meera might be possessed by the evil spirit of this unidentified man who is snapping and smiling in the video. In the next scene, Meera is seen as a normal girl inside the ship in an opening area where there is water. Then, from the dark, a fish is thrown near Meera, but she refuses to eat it. But when an evil spirit of a guy came out, Meera ate the fish out of fear. From this scene, it is clear that the female ghost inside the ship is actually Meera, and she is still alive. She is turned into a ghost after being possessed by a male ghost. But why the male ghost killed all the crew in the ship except the little girl Meera and possessed her is still not known. Meanwhile, Prithivi came to the house of Professor Joshi to discuss why Meera's mother recorded the guy in the videotapes again and again. But still, they have no idea who the guy in the videotape really is. Professor Joshi told that the evil spirit inside the ship is keeping Meera alive for a long time due to some unfinished business. At that time, Riaz also came near them. Riaz told them that he found a woman named Vundana who survived among all of the crew members who killed themselves by jumping off the ship in 2001. Now, she is staying in a church on the outskirts of the city. The next day, Prithivi and Professor Joshi go to the church where the woman named Vundana stays. A church sister informed them that she is alive, and right now she is praying inside the church. Then Prithivi and Professor Joshi enter the church and see Vundana pleasantly lighting candles. But they were shocked to know that Vundana was actually the woman they saw in the videotape. They play the video of Meera's birthday party and show it to her. Prithivi told Vundana that her daughter Meera is alive and has been on Seabird for the past 11 years. He asked her who the guy in the videotape was and what really happened on Seabird's ship. She reveals that the Seabird ship was involved in smuggling gold, drugs, and medicines. The whole crew was involved in these illegal activities. The captain created a secret room inside the ship for smuggling, and it was impossible to find this room by others. Her husband is the captain of the ship. He was an alcoholic person and would regularly beat her. She couldn't handle it anymore and decided to kill herself by jumping off the ship. But that unknown man whom they saw in the video stopped her and saved her life. His name is Amar, and he fell in love with her. Later, Amar had an affair with her that caused her to become pregnant with his child. After that, Vundana and Amar decided to run away from the ship. But she wanted to expose her husband by recording videos of the ship's illegal activities that consist of smuggling drugs and gold bars. So, they started recording the illegal drugs and gold secretly using a camera and had collected enough evidence. But Amar continued recording more and more, and someone among the crew saw him with the camera. After Amar was captured, the captain ordered to kill Amar, but he couldn't because Amar hid those videotapes somewhere. Amar was tortured a lot, but he did not reveal anything about the videotapes. Then 2 days later, he was dead inside the engine room of the ship. Vundana continued saying that after all this, she is still with the captain because after she got pregnant, the captain was very happy and he stopped beating her. But the captain had no idea that her daughter Meera wasn't his but Amar's child. That is why the spirit of Amar still kept Meera alive with him while killing the rest of the crew. Now Prithivi and Professor Joshi know all the missing information about the Seabird ship. At that time Riaz called Prithivi and told him that a tugboat had been attached to the Seabird ship and they would move the ship tomorrow from the beach. So they only have tonight to check inside the ship. Vundana said that she believed Meera was kept hidden inside the secret room by the spirit of Amar and only she knows the secret room on the ship. So this time they decide to take Vundana to the ship and save the little girl Meera. But Prithivi told Vundana to wait outside the deck because she is the last surviving member of the crew and it's not safe for her to enter inside the ship. Then Prithivi handed over a walkie-talkie to her and told her to wait on the deck and asked her to give them the directions to the secret room where Meera was supposedly kept hidden. After that, Prithivi, Riaz, and Professor Joshi entered the ship and Vundana gave them the directions to reach the secret room using the walkie-talkie. After Prithivi and Professor Joshi enter inside the engine room, the door suddenly closes and Riaz is separated from Prithivi and Professor Joshi. Then the female ghost started attacking Riaz, so he ran outside the deck of the ship. Meanwhile, Prithivi and Professor Joshi are inside the engine room, looking for the secret room. Vundana, using the walkie-talkie, told Prithivi to go down near the oil filter area inside the engine room. After that, the walkie-talkie signal is disconnected by the ghost. At that moment, Vundana sees her daughter Meera as a little girl standing in front of her on the deck. Then the little girl ran inside the ship and Vundana followed her little daughter. While following her little daughter, Vundana reached near the engine room and she opened the secret room. Meanwhile, Riaz leaks the diesel fuel from the upper deck of the ship and floods the engine room with diesel fuel. Prithivi and Professor Joshi enter the secret room and encounter the ghost of Meera. Then the ghost of Meera attacked Prithivi and he was unable to move his body. Professor Joshi performs an exorcism on the ghost, but it has no effect. The ghost threw him out of the room. Then the ghost turned against Prithivi and tried to kill him by choking. At that moment, Vundana also came near the secret room. After hearing Vundana's voice, the ghost stopped almost killing Prithivi and left the room. When Prithivi saw Vundana, he told her to leave right now. But Vundana refused, saying she wouldn't leave without her daughter Meera. Then Prithivi tried to hold Vundana's hand and take her away from inside the ship. At that moment, Prithivi sees a flashback of truth on how Amar was killed. In that flashback, Prithivi sees that it was Vundana who killed Amar. After knowing that, Prithivi asked Vundana why she killed her true lover, Amar. Vundana replied that she killed her lover Amar because she was afraid of her husband, who is the captain of the ship. If the captain found out about her affair with Amar, the captain would have killed her as well as her daughter. So basically, the evil spirit of Amar takes revenge on Vundana by kidnapping his daughter, then possessing her and feeding her with raw fish for the last 11 years. Vundana continues looking for her daughter Meera inside the secret room. The ghost of Amar came out and stared at Vundana angrily. Vundana asked for forgiveness from Amar, but Amar's ghost did not accept it and killed her. Prithivi sees Amar's skeleton still hanging above the room. He tried to cut it down and burn it. But the ghost of Amar stops and attacks him. Meanwhile, Professor Joshi found the body of Meera. After that, Professor Joshi again performed an exorcism on the ghost, but the ghost threw him away and drowned under a ship hole. At that moment, Prithivi threw the axe, producing a spark inside the room. The spark burned the room because the engine room is filled with diesel fuel previously spilled by Riaz from the upper deck. Finally, Amar's skeleton is burned by fire, and the ghost turns into ash and disappears. Thus, the haunting inside the ship is finally over. As the ship is engulfed in flames, Prithivi finds the girl Meera and dives into the water. He escapes with the girl through the hole in the lower regions of the ship that he had seen before. Finally, Prithivi was able to rescue Meera from the ship. After that, on 9 July 2012, the seabird ship was finally removed from Juhu Beach in Mumbai. Prithivi brought Meera to his home. Since Meera has been eating raw fish inside the ship for the last 11 years, she doesn't know how to eat properly. So, Prithivi taught her how to eat noodles. At the end, Prithivi smiles for the first time at Meera and takes care of her as his own daughter.